Thank you, Senator Farrell. Senator Ludlam.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I rise tonight to pay my respects to the people who took on the 2014 election campaign in WA in support of the Greens, took it on and won. Senator Milne was asked in an interview last year what objectives the Greens were setting for the 2013 election. She predicted we could win back every sitting Green MP, including Adam in Melbourne, with a chance of gaining a new senator in other states, including Victoria. With the welcome arrival of Senator Janet Rice a few weeks from now and a big swing to Adam in Melbourne, it seemed that we had done it, except, as it turned out, in WA we were hanging on by our fingernails and slipping bit by bit. Without the urgent assistance of Brian Walters, Mark Cox and a small team of Greens volunteers with the legal experience to secure the recount, the story would have ended there. The disappearance of a stack of votes towards the end of the recount, however, threw the whole process into confusion. Our legal team, Ron, Francis and Mark, got us through the High Court roller coaster with the only outcome that didn't involve some form of disenfranchisement, a fresh election for the West Australian Senate. And while this was all unfolding, Australians were getting a sharp dose of political shock treatment from the incoming government. An administration composed almost entirely of reactionary, middle-aged white men that immediately began taking leave of its election commitments and its censors. Polls were turning sharply against the Liberals and Nationals, even as the temperatures rose through the angry summer of 2013-14. Unknown to most, small teams of volunteers were moving door to door through Perth suburbs in the heat of December and January, asking what people thought of the government's plans to dismantle our clean energy laws. Oggy Simic's careful organising laid the template for what was to come. As it became increasingly obvious that we were headed for a new election, the party put its fortunes in the hands of one Jess McColl. I think the single best decision that we made through the whole course of the campaign. Senator Rachel Siewert, my friend, mentor and Western Australian Senate colleague, drove a grounded collaboration that I now really look forward to continuing. Under Jess's extraordinary management, the team began to scale. First with one of the most motivated and motivating people I've ever met, the formidable Tim Lacerdo. Jess, Oggy and Tim built the core of a strong, flexible organising model that was being stress-tested under the pressures of an election campaign, even as they were building it. The months that followed tell the story. This small team inspired 35 neighbourhood organisers to get out every few days and have face-to-face conversations, one door knocked at a time, street to street, until there were 300 people on the streets, knocking 28,000 doors. This was backed by a homegrown research effort led by Chilla and Norm to make sure that our efforts were well targeted and that no one's time was wasted. While this was happening, the Genius technology team were busy, Ant and Graham in particular, building a sophisticated electorate mapping system and a full-featured call centre in 48 hours out of cast-offs and gaffer tape. This allowed a rapidly expanding team of 250 volunteers at 2 sites in WA to make 50,000 phone calls over the course of the campaign. And so by election day, we had 12 distributed call centres interstate, with volunteers ringing into WA to have simple conversations about the importance of every single vote. The after-images of the campaign have now begun to run together, being roped up a 40-metre carry tree in Challa Forest to spend brief moments on a platform in the canopy, and nearby the levelled stump of a tree at least 300 years old, felled and fed into a wood chipper a few weeks earlier. Recalling the management and the staff of SolarGain, who may lose their jobs and their business if this government goes ahead and sabotages the renewable energy target. Some of the strongest memories remind me of how many creative artists and musicians came to our help. People like Richard and Prue and the folks at 303 for the crowdsourced remix of Our Speech, or Luch and the screen printing team who simply appeared and got to work. This is by far the most fun that you could have on a campaign. Eloise, Sam, Travis and Leslie and all the bands who threw in their time and energy for the Stock benefit at the Rosemount Hotel. Gillian Catlow and the performers who made the concert for Common Sense such a beautiful evening. Anton and the Death Disco crew for the improbable and utterly mad Lollapalooza at Capitol Nightclub, with warm thanks to Emma Sully for photography. To John and Danny for all your support and for everything you do, and to Abby May for opening the His Majesty's 2.0 event with such heart. The old story about Perth's isolation provoking a vibrant and highly original music and art scene, it's all true. The home team, the people who put everything into this work, I cannot thank you enough. Trish, Sarah, Chantal and Ray, backed by our office interns and by wonderful volunteers, Amy and Troy, Molly and Ruth, Sebastian and Guy in particular, for keeping everything moving in the thick of the campaign. We were entirely fortunate to welcome talented visitors from interstate: Sean, Brad, Roseanne, Anna, Holly and Paris, each bringing a specific talent or a specific skill or even specific whisky. We took a strong and diverse lineup of Senate candidates into this campaign. To Christine, Ian, Sarah, Jordan and Judith, one day, I hope, you get to speak your own minds in this chamber. And somehow we managed to be everywhere. The office crew, Rowena and David, Jenny, Jay and Jean went above and beyond. Robin managed to get us a presence at practically every community event in the state, and Ozzy was there long after everyone else had packed and left to run the scrutineering effort. In the weeks leading up to the election, Patrick, Tim and Ryan and the team spent hundreds of hours marshalling booth volunteers so that when Giz and the crew at the warehouse took delivery of tens of thousands of how-to-vote cards, we could land the best coordinated election day presence we've ever seen. My dear family, Graham and Jude, for the long hours in the warehouse and creativity behind the scenes, and to Glenn for bringing Riley to enjoy his first ever democracy sausage on April 5. We owe a debt to Noel Nannup for your words and your inspiration as we launched the next phase of the WA 2.0 project in front of 900 people at His Majesty's Theatre. This is why I do this work. Thank you to Feroz for bringing it all together, and for care taken by our policy team, led by Chantal Caruso and Claire Ozich, to inform our ideas with evidence and creativity, and to groups like Sustainable Energy Now, who inform, again, this work with a deep reservoir of evidence and industry experience. Sarah, backed up by our media team, including Redman and Sarah and others, then took this work and got it on TV and in the paper, lifting our profile even further. A number of my party room colleagues made it out west: Richard, Pete, Larissa and Penny, and to Adam and the Melbourne crew for advice and inspiration. I cannot overemphasise how much heart it gave to people in WA to know that the whole country was looking out for them. Finally, to Senator Milne and your team, including those who made it out west to lend a hand directly: Emma, Erin, Peter and Wendy. Senator Christine Milne celebrates 25 years in politics today, and we simply could not have done this without your advice and inspiration. Christine, this one's for you. We recorded the strongest result we've ever achieved in Western Australia, 15.6%. That's nearly 200,000 people who have trusted us with their vote, many of them for the first time. For every 2 Liberal voters in Western Australia, there's now a Green voter. In Foreign Minister Julie Bishop's seat of Curtin, the Greens outpolled Labor and now make up just under a quarter of the vote. In South Fremantle, we are half the vote. In Subiaco North, 40%. We are fully a third of the vote in Scarborough Central, Darlington and Melville booths. And this is not a simple inner-city phenomenon. Our vote doubled in Belden and Nollamara, and some of our best results were recorded in Broome, 27%, Margaret River, 36%, and Denmark, 33%. This is at least in part due to those people who spent every spare minute over those final weeks to walk the streets and connect to their communities. They have started something that goes on well beyond this campaign. And so to you, tonight, I get to say thank you. In particular to those young people who have trusted us with your first vote. That really matters to us. And to older voters or those with other political affiliations who shook off your dismay at the degraded state of politics and pitched in to help us get there, thank you. I'm proud of this result, I'm proud of the people who delivered it, and I'm daunted at how far we yet have to travel. And I also would like to thank and acknowledge those other candidates, their staff and their families whose lives were also put on hold through this entire process, and to also acknowledge my colleague Louise Pratt, who's here tonight, who deserved another 6 years in this place at least. I got a message from Jess Beckling at Challa Forest last week. Those campaigners have prevailed. With the first heavy rains of the season in the southwest, there will be no further destruction of that precious place. Challa stands, at least for now. This is the beginning. Now we build a movement to send Mr Rabbit into the history books as a failed one-term Prime Minister. If the West Australian election of 2014 showed anything, it's that people don't just want a different government, they want a different kind of government, and it's up to us to deliver that together. I thank the Chamber.